Welcome to Good Follow, presented by DraftKings. I'm Megan Reyes. Joining me are Logan Hackett and Katie Navani. We start the week with legendary Lisa Leslie rocking the WNBA Rookie of the Year debate with this tweet. She says, "I don't care what comparisons you make. Both Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark deserve the Rookie of the Year award. The pressure and the weight of this season has forever changed the WNBA, and both rookies rose to the top and exceeded all of our expectations. Take a bow, ladies." Who are we to criticize Lisa Leslie, but can we question her argument for a bit? Is it fair to give out two winners or fair to award the clear best player?
I don't know. I think saying that both do deserve it for sure, but giving out two or like having them be co-rookie of the years, I don't know. I'm not really rocking with that. I feel like we have a clear winner, but on the other hand, because there's such a rivalry here, to please everyone in a way, you kind of have to give but I would love them to stick with like one rookie of the year.
Hey, how would you feel if you had to share an award with somebody?
I'd be pissed. I think it doesn't help anybody to change it now. And I think when you try to please everybody, you end up like displeasing everybody at the same time. So I would like them to take a stance. Yes, it changed it. The season changed the WNBA for the better, but we shouldn't be changing everything else. Let it lift up. Let it be the same. We wouldn't do I don't think we would do that in the NBA, you know? So
this is true. This is also very true. Well, this next tweet shows just how much Caitlin Clark is outperforming Angel Reese when we're talking numbers. So let's take a look at this. Let's talk some stats. In what world should the qualifications be something other than should the best player win?
This world. This world that we live in with social media and people taking sides and there being literal fights, friendships ending, cannot even have a conversation with someone over it. You know what? I was at a party the other day and somebody was going on about Caitlin Clark being so much better than Angel Reese, kind of alluding to the stats. But at one point I was like, dude, have you ever watched Caitlin Clark play? He was like, I haven't. I was like, have you watched Angel Reese play? He was like, no. I'm like, okay, then shut up, please. Like, it's just these type of people that come in and it's making this whole thing a big thing that shouldn't be.
Well, so who is your clear player for Rookie of the Year award?
It's Caitlin Clark based on stats, 100%. What Angel's doing is super impressive, especially with like all these rebound records. But when it comes down to it, I'm going to go Caitlin.
I also think it's important that we remember that just because one woman is doing statistically better than another doesn't mean the other one is less than. That is not the truth. Just because you're uplifting one person in the moment does not mean you're putting someone else down. She is still deserving of all the accolades and the excitement. Like, Angel's still doing a great job. One doesn't decount like the other, and it's driving me crazy.
Well, recently on Pablo Torre Finds Out, Pablo had this to say about Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Let's take a look.
But one thing Caitlin and Angel pretty clearly share is a mutual appreciation for demonstrative gestures, which the nation saw when LSU beat Iowa to win the national title in April 2023. And Caitlin got a taste of her own celebration, the whole John Cena hand in front of your face, you can't see me thing, which was followed by Angel highlighting one particular finger.
And Angel Reese knows a ring is coming.
So Pablo reminds us that these two have been competitors and rivals for a couple of years going back to college. If you had the best rookie season of all time and you were told you had to share the award with someone who was your longtime rival, would that just make you furious?
Absolutely. Yeah. But if I was Angel, I'd be like, okay, at least I have a national championship and you can't take that from me. Does Caitlin have one? Oh, no. So I think she has a leg up there, and I think it kind of softens the blow a little bit more.
Katie, would you rather have a national championship or Rookie of the Year?
I think Rookie of the Year, but I think a lot of athletes take, or maybe I shouldn't generalize. I personally, if I was that close and I didn't get it, it would push me to do even better next season. So I'm like really excited to see what Angel does in the offseason to come back and kind of show everybody what we missed out on.
Agreed, 100%. Well, up next, we have Diamond DeShields. She was given a technical for her intentional foul against Caitlin Clark. Let's see this clip.
In Trust Arena, the Fever really stretched out this one in the second half as we look at Diamond DeShields and Caitlin Clark.
So, okay, we could debate this foul all day long, but what has really been sparking conversation around this play is a tweet from WNBA legend Sheryl Swoopes, who seems to defend Diamond's actions. She says, "Head up, kid, hate will not win. You are covered and ain't nothing these evil people can do about that. All love for you." Why do you think Cheryl's going out of her way to defend what you could arguably say is a cheap shot?
I personally think if Diamond did it to anybody else, nobody would be coming for her. And it's because it's Caitlin that she has people coming. So I kind of think that's where Cheryl's coming from. But when I do look at the clip, I'm like, okay, it was kind of avoidable. I do want to say I love how she kind of goes off and is like, oh no, I didn't mean to do it. And it was like she was full force just running towards her.
Have you seen those TikToks of the guy who like has his, I think it's a husky or a dog, like come and charge at him and he knocks him out in the backyard? That's like basically what that play was. It's all playful and good fun, but that's kind of what it reminds me of, the way she went after her and fouled her and then was like, oops, but neither here nor there. Well, earlier in the week, Charles Barkley joined in on the conversation as well, saying they couldn't have fucked this up more if they tried. Petty jealousy leads to negativity about Clark she doesn't deserve. Is Chuck right here?
I think so. I think she was just kind of like if this happened to, if this was your rookie year and all this, and you were so excited about joining the WNBA and you worked your butt off and then everyone just comes for you. And this is clearly a bubble up of like a history of racism and in the WNBA. And it's like and all the women that have been building this league over and over and over again throughout the years. And I understand the anger and the frustration that people are now finally paying attention, but it is not Caitlin Clark's fault, I think, is my hot take.
100%. I also don't see people hating on like LeBron and Steph all that much. Like you have the ones here or there, but it's never really like an all out war. But as you said, like she's worked so hard for this. She is just playing basketball, and all this whole other world is outside of her. And I do honestly feel really bad.
And I think it's just like, because women we can't just have things. It has to be a fight. Everything has to be a fight. We have to be pitted against each other. And it's just infuriating.
We'll never know unless someone actually asked her specifically and asked her the question that I like to ask my friends, other than how are you? It's like, how is your heart and your soul? And so unless someone actually asks Caitlin, how is your heart and your soul? We won't know specifically, but I feel that she has, and a lot of people on social media and in, the talking heads have compared her a lot to Kobe's mentality. I can't help but think that I think she likes it a little bit and feeds off of it. So while I'm sure it's very frustrating, it's definitely fueling her fire.
Mm-hmm. That girl loves drama.
Well, coming up in honor of the NFL season kicking off, I sit down with Kelli Masters, NFL sports agent and the first woman to represent a first-round pick in the NFL draft. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Good Follow. Joining us today is lawyer, NFL sports agent, and president of KMM Sports, Kelli Masters. Kelli, we are so excited to have you on. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
So, Kelli, the first thing I want to know is what inspired you to become an NFL agent?
I wish I could say there was some moment or that I always dreamed of being an agent. And I can't say that. It really happened over just like a journey. So grew up in Oklahoma, football is king. That's, all we really cared about growing up was watching the Sooners or the Cowboys play on Saturday, and then watching basically the Cowboys or the Steelers play on Sunday. And that was just my world. I didn't have any brothers, but my dad was he was an attorney, but also a radio play-by-play guy. So I would go and listen to him call games, and my mom was his spotter. And so I asked a million questions from the time I could talk about football. And so it was just always kind of part of my life, but I had no idea it would become part of my future. Certainly not part of my career path, but I ended up getting a degree in journalism, going to law school, practicing law, and then about 5 years into my law practice, had an opportunity sort of serendipitously to work with a former NFL player and his family on his foundation and some legal issues that they had. And one thing led to another, and I decided to get certified and became an agent. So that was kind of the path.
I kind of picture like a little bit of the daughter from Remember the Titans is like a little bit of your story. Like you're probably like breaking down gameplay and analyzing with your dad.
Yes, exactly. I don't know that I ever told a coach how to call plays, but but close enough. And my dad was great. I mean, I remember getting my first sort of chalk talk when I was maybe 4 or 5, where he's like, "I'm going to explain this to you. This is what the X's and O's are." And I just, and I had such a, it was so many memories were tied to not just learning the game, but everything around the game. I just wanted to be around it all the time. And it's funny because in college and even in law school, I never thought of sports as a career path. It was like, real life over here, and sports was kind of my escape. And I was, one thing that I did my entire childhood into college was I was a baton twirler. That's also a big deal in Oklahoma. And so I was always, part of the game. I was part of the pageantry of it, the pregame ceremony and the halftime show. And so that was just kind of my life, growing up, was just being sort of immersed in the whole production of the football games, not just the X's and O's, but everything around it. And my heart was always drawn to it. I always enjoyed it. I just had no idea I could have a career that allowed me to keep doing that. So without a baton, I don't think I would want to keep twirling. A little too old for that.
That is such a cool journey and story that you shared. And I relate to you a lot. I went to college originally to study something else and fell into a sports internship. And similarly, I really fell in love with the production and the experience that I had putting on experiences for other people. And then I fell in love with it from there.
Yes.
I want to ask you, what challenges have you faced in an industry that is mainly men?
The good thing is it's still mainly men, but there are so many other women, obviously, that are coming into the industry in various roles and responsibilities, even coaches, and I remember when I first became an agent, it was 20 years ago, and you didn't see women who were scouts. Rarely did you see a woman on the football side of things, the referees or the coaches, and now it's not uncommon. And certainly there are more female agents. When I took the agent exam to become certified, I was it. I looked around and went, well, and I was okay with that. My law firm where I practiced, I was one of the very, very few women, and very few of the women became partners in the firm, and so that I was kind of used to that. That's didn't really bother me that much. I think what was hard in the beginning, besides the learning curve, just learning the industry, how to recruit, how to deal with everything. I had already been practicing law, so I knew the nuts and bolts of negotiation and understanding the collective bargaining agreement and the laws and regulations, all of that. That was fun for me. I enjoyed that. That was easy, not easy, but easier for me. But it was just understanding and learning the industry. And when I did first get started, there really were no women doing what I was doing. And so I was automatically judged or discounted that, oh, well, you're a woman. What do you know about football? And are you really tough enough to negotiate, an NFL contract? And I'm thinking, first of all, I have argued, cases in court and won against attorneys, twice my age. I don't think being a woman makes you bad at advocacy. In fact, it probably makes you better at advocacy. And there were so many things about being an agent that I just felt like as a woman, I was so equipped and qualified that I just felt like, I just have to educate people. I have to educate players and families that this is what an agent does. And this is why gender shouldn't matter. You should just, find someone that you genuinely trust, that you feel like is the best person to fight for you, to protect you, to walk you through the process, to be there for you through the process. And, when I would describe an agent, I thought that kind of sounds like a mama bear, defending her kiddo or protecting or fighting for them. And not that I'm trying to be a player's mom, but it just helps players and families realize, oh, that's what it means to be an agent. It really is someone who advocates and protects and guides and even nurtures and is there through so many phases of a professional football career. And so really in the beginning was educating people about, this is why a woman can do this. Mm-hmm. And then we got past that point. I feel like about 5 years in, I had my first sort of big break with representing Sheryl McCoy, who was drafted number 3 overall to the Buccaneers. And that was kind of a pivotal moment, not just in my life, but in the industry, where suddenly there wasn't sort of that gender barrier anymore. So it's good that I'm not the only one, but that those of us got to be part of sort of breaking through that barrier, so to speak. And I think now, as far as challenges, it is just to be frank, it's a very expensive business to get into. Mm-hmm. It's time consuming. It is financially very challenging. You have to spend a lot more money than you make for a while in order to break into the industry and do it at a high level. So there is the sort of the financial barrier of figuring out how to make this work, how to make it work as a business. And that's been a process that I'm finally 20 years later, I feel much better about, but that was a challenge. And then the other is it's still an industry where there's a lot of just sort of the seedy underbelly, the stuff that people don't talk about, stuff that maybe you see in movies, like Jerry Maguire, or the movies that we hate to refer to, but like the shady stuff, there is a lot of corruption. There's a lot of money under the table, which I guess now a lot of it is on the table with NIL and some changes that have happened in the industry. I think hopefully things are going to move towards a better direction, but there just is a lot of, I feel like the biggest barrier is doing things with integrity and excellence, without compromise, without cheating, and still having success. And I think that to this day, that's still the biggest challenge. And that's what I've always been committed to, is if I can't do this where I can, put my head on my pillow at night and feel good about it, then I don't want to do it anymore. So I still want to hold that standard of excellence, when it would be really easy to fall into doing things that everybody else does just because everybody else gets away with it. And I want to be different, and I want to continue to be different.
You mentioned this, but you made history when you were the first woman to represent a first-round draft pick in the NFL draft. Can you take us through that moment? Can you share with us the feelings and the process during that time? Yeah.
So I had met this player, Sheryl McCoy, and his family years before, when he was in high school. And it was at an FCA banquet that I wasn't really even supposed to go to. I kind of went at the last minute, met this family. Who knew that 5 years later he would be drafted number 3 overall? But I immediately connected with them, stayed in touch. I remember I was a brand new agent at the time. I gave his dad my business card. And 5 years later, he called me and he said, "I've kept your business card in my wallet this whole time, and you're my first phone call to an agent." And wow. So I hung in there and I did all the meetings and the recruiting. I went, traveled around and went to all of his games. When it came down to the final push, it really was a miracle that he agreed to sign with me. And I remember his dad looking at me when I was making all the, like, giving them the spiel of why a woman can do this. And he stopped me and he goes, he was a very spiritual man. And he was very like, he quoted the Bible a lot. And he said, you are a Deborah, you are an Esther. He started like talking about strong women leaders in the Bible. And I'm like, okay, I can roll with this. These are good comparisons. So I'm like, okay. He's like, you don't have to, he's like, stop defending yourself. We trust you. You can do this. And so but up to that point, I had never represented a player that actually got drafted. I'd represented players who had gone undrafted and who had signed up practice squad. But up to that point, no drafted players. And so my first drafted player was in the first round.
Incredible.
Which seems like a miracle right now. And, two things that I'll mention about that night. First of all, I was so focused on him and making sure that he had the best night of his life and that his family had the best night of their lives, that I don't have a single picture. Like, I didn't take any pictures of myself. I don't have a single picture.
You were so in the moment.
I was so in the moment, which I kind of feel like we lose that sometimes when we're trying to figure out what we're going to post on social media. But I was so in the moment and enjoyed the fact that even though it was a big breakthrough for me personally, the night was really about him and his dreams coming true and me getting to play a small role in that. But it didn't really hit me that, oh my gosh, we've made history together until later. And I remember that night, like picking up my phone after we had gone through the whole announcement and him going on stage. And Gerald happened to be the first player that bear hugged the commissioner when he walked on stage. He kind of started that trend because before, I guess there was more decorum and everyone would like shake hands. And Gerald just like picked him up off the ground. And I missed that whole thing because I was helping herd his family onto the stage, all the family members onto the stage. But I got back to my phone after all of that was over, and I had like countless messages from people who had just believed in me all those years and had watched me struggle and had watched me fight and come so close, to finally having a breakthrough. And it was just such a neat moment where people were like, we're so happy for you and we're so thankful that you persevered, and thank you for, being an inspiration. And that was so I just glory to God. I was just so thankful that I didn't give up because I was able to reach that moment. And again, at the end of the day, it wasn't about me. It was about my client and his family having the best night ever. And I think it was also, and I hope I believe it was for other people too, for other people who are chasing dreams and people are telling them they're not eligible or they're not capable or they're hitting a wall. And maybe, giving them a little bit of hope and inspiration that it really can happen if you don't give up.
Well, I really like what you shared that Gerald's dad shared with you, that how you didn't have to defend yourself. And I feel as women, a lot of times we feel that we need to qualify and validate our reasoning for being in a room or for being the most qualified. So other than that, what advice do you have for women who want to become sports agents or work in the NFL or work in your field?
There's so much. First of all, know, and you hear this from a lot of different places, but know your why. Why are you drawn to this? What's the purpose behind why you're pursuing this? Because it is a tough industry and you will fall flat on your face and you're going to get bruised and bloodied. You have to know why you're doing it. And that reason has to be so strong. And I believe, and this is just my personal sort of mantra, is it can't be about self-glorification or, any sort of, puffed up, look at me. It really has to be about having a servant's heart and willing to serve, willing to work hard, willing to sort of make the sacrifices and lay down your own life to not to be that dramatic. It's not like I'm facing, not like I'm facing anything horrible, but it is, you do make sacrifices to be in this industry. And so having a really strong purpose is so essential. And then I would also say be a forever student. Realize that you don't know it all. You'll probably never know it all. And we're all learning, we're all growing, hopefully improving year over year. And so, yeah, like be a constant student, meet people, connect with people, don't rely on social media or LinkedIn. Great tools. Also, like, what would we do without it? But also building real relationships. And to me, that has been the biggest key. Know your why, be willing to put in the work and study, and then build friendships and relationships. And that's value people.
That's wonderful advice. And Kelli, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. It's been really wonderful to share space with you and to have you as a guest. And I'm wishing you all the best of luck this season.
Thank you so much. All the best to you too.
Thank you. Coming up, Katie, Logan, and I take a look at what's trending in women's sports and rank whether it's elite or cooked. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Good Follow. Today, Katie, Logan, and I will be bringing out the Good Follow Rankers Social Media Edition. So as a group, we will dive into what's trending online and we'll decide where it lands in one of these categories: cooked, sci, mid, elite, or goated. Make sense?
Copy.
All right. To lead the list, what if you showed up in the biggest doubles match of your life and your opponents were wearing the same clothes?
Oh, crap. Well, one of us is going to have to change.
That's what happened last week at the U.S. Open. Doubles partners Jasmine Paolini and Sarah Irani and doubles partners Harriet Dart and Diane Perry all showed up at a match wearing the exact same outfit. Is this cooked, or is this pushing the boundaries of elite status because they just don't care?
Oh, maybe the elite status, because I was going to say I'd be so sad if that happened to me. But at the same time, all the brands dress the players in the same outfit unless they have like their custom ones. So you kind of know that sometimes you're going to show up to the match and be in the exact same outfit. But all four is crazy.
Katie, what do you think?
I'm going all the way to GOAT because I think it takes a lot of pride to just suck it up and do your thing.
Well, also at the U.S. Open, there was a controversial exchange with a ball girl. Let's take a look. So during Yulia Potentseva's match against Paolini, a ball girl tosses the ball to Yulia, who watches it bounce without moving, prompting the crowd to boo at her. How would you rate Yulia's behavior with the ball girl?
Cooked. Is that the right? Is that, I don't like it at all. I hate it. What is your deal? Why? These kids are doing this for free because they love the sport. Mm-hmm. I can't understand the reasoning. I don't get it.
Even if you're like super mad, I feel like you at least treat them with respect, but they're like prompted. Like that's what they do in every single match. They put their hands up, they throw your balls. Like, why are you just standing there?
And it also, like, they get nervous. I've never worked a tennis match, but a lot of the soccer games I've been covering, or if I'm walking around the pitch and the ball kids are so nervous, I want to make sure that they get it right. So she was probably like, did I not do something right here? It's just such an awkward position to put a kid in.
Yeah. It's also one of those things where like you treat people with respect no matter where they are at, in the professional sense. And when you treat the people that are down here like they're down here, I don't like that at all.
Okay, so we're going with Yulia's actions were cooked.
Cooked.
Well, our third one is an Olympic athlete, and she is someone that we've all gotten to know and love and has scored the coveted Sports Illustrated swimsuit cover for September. We have Olympic rugby star Alona Mar gracing the cover of Sports Illustrated swimsuit. In her interview, Mar shared that despite being labeled as masculine growing up, she never saw herself that way, and that sports have been so helpful when it came to body image. Well, she got bronze at the Olympics, but these pics are gold. How would you rate this swimsuit cover?
GOAT. All the way. 100%.
Slide it. Can you go further than GOAT? I think that's where I'm at.
Broke the scale.
Yeah, break the scale. She looks freaking incredible,
Those photos
dude.
Are incredible.
the behind the scenes footage too, and like with her red lips, and I think she was wearing a red bikini. She just looked incredible. You guys ever wonder, like, you're like, what would I look like if I had like a full team like doing that? Like, she just pulled it off so well. They killed it. They absolutely killed it.
Goated for sure. Okay, so we have to address this next one. How would you react if a teammate publicly called you out for a losing streak? Take a look.
Everybody's faces when she said, like, everybody just in so much shock.
So this was on stage during an episode of Wildin' Out, and Sydney Colson gets on the mic, calls out the Aces. The Aces have lost 3 games in a row during a 4-game stretch. Sydney is objectively hilarious. Everyone knows she's, you know, the class clown of the WNBA, but how would you rate calling out your team like this on TV?
I feel it's Wildin' Out. It's that is the place to do it. It fits the tone. If it was somewhere else, I probably would be not into it. So I'm going elite here because it's honest, it's funny. She's not saying that any one particular person is bad, and she says we, and it's the place to do it. It's hilarious.
I agree. Wildin' Out is a place for self-deprecating humor. And all she was saying is if we keep losing, we'll be in last place. That was really all she actually said. I agree with Elite.
Absolutely.
That is great.
And also you're like making it up on
Wildin' Out more.
It's all improvised too. She's doing it on the fly. You know, it's like, it's a skill. It's beautiful.
Well, moving on, in the past few weeks, we have seen this athlete everywhere, and there have been some talks about her supernatural powers. So Paige Buckets Beckers has been spotted at a variety of sporting events lately: a Minnesota Lynx game, the Mystics game, a Seattle Storm game, and most recently, the U.S. Open. She even got pictures with cast members from Scandal and Grey's Anatomy. She recently retweeted this, alluding to her teleportation powers. So women supporting women, we love to see it, but is Paige's teleportation ability elite or just a mid-tier superpower?
I have to go with elite. That girl's everywhere. Even in Coco Gauff's box, I was like, is that Paige? Like, I swear she was just at another game the night before. Like,
I agree with you because summer. Like she also, well, to your point, has still been summer, but she's also still in school. So it's not as if she's doing these teleportation powers and, you know, with a professional schedule. She's still in school and has that schedule to balance as well. But you know where I all stand. You all know where I stand when it comes to Grey's Anatomy. So the fact that she's hanging out with the Shondaland cast members is elite to me. Katie, what are your thoughts on this?
I don't know. I guess I think it's cool. I think it's awesome. I have questions. I want to know how she's doing it. Or I don't know, maybe I'm just jealous that she gets to do fun things. You know, like it could easily be that. I'm like, how are you doing this? That is, the question
is she being put on a private jet or is she just flying first class all these places? I think that is the real
correct. If she is flying Southwest everywhere, that's GOAT. That is a hard sell. But if it's private, then it's mid.
Okay, well, for our last one, this one is just baffling to us. During a post-game interview, Caitlin Clark was asked a question that we're not quite sure was the point. Let's take a listen.
Caitlin, after giving the razzmatazz to those Windy City skyscrapers Friday night, what was the biggest wing ding you expected to find today in the shindig against these dynamos from Big D? Next question.
So, okay. I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea what was even asked, and I'm very glad that the PR person said next question before Caitlin even had to be put in that position. But basically, this reporter asked LeBron a similar question in the past as well. So I guess it's a compliment that she was also asked, given that another GOAT was asked. But where do these shenanigans in a post-game interview fall on the ranker? Cooked. We've all been there, and as media, we all understand, like when you're in these post-game interviews and you're in these post-game press conferences, I think it's absolutely necessary to have fun with your questions, but some of them too, like, don't abuse your power to ask weird things. Like, don't be that person. Don't be the weirdo.
Well, sir, what are you going to say about that too? And then she has like a long cigarette, like, I think like if she can, hello, I'm over here. I'm playing some basketball and I love, don't you love those buckets? Don't you love those buckets you see? That's a tough bit to do to an unsuspecting person.
Well, that's it for the Good Follow Ranker. Coming up, I reveal my DraftKings picks of the week and my latest Good Follow. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Good Follow. Before we get into our weekly picks, our partners at DraftKings have an offer that's perfect for any game day. Right now, new customers who bet $5 will instantly get $250 in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and sign up using promo code GOODFOLLOW. That's $250 in bonus bets to spend on parlays, live betting, or picking straight-up winners after betting just $5. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, you can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the shot to win cash prizes. Again, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code GOODFOLLOW for $250 in bonus bets instantly after betting just $5 only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Now it's time for this week's DraftKings Sportsbook picks. In the WNBA, the Liberty are taking on the Las Vegas Aces on Sunday, September 8th. New York needs to improve on their turnover issues if they want the win. They currently average 16.1 per game since the Olympic break, which is second highest in the league. This game will be a tough challenge for the Aces, but the team's overall talent and their winning pedigree makes them my pick to win. Asia recently recorded 2 40-point games. Her 4 total ties her with Diana Taurasi and Breanna Stewart for the most in WNBA history. Asia is the MVP favorite, especially when she's wearing her white tee and has Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum, and Jackie Young backing her up to potentially have the highest single season average in league history. So Logan, the Liberty have won the first 2 matchups this season. Outside of improving turnovers, what are the Aces going to have to do to avoid being swept by New York?
Asia's gonna have to keep that plain fit on. Don't come out, don't pop up and show nothing. White shirt, sweatpants, if it's hot outside, maybe some shorts. She's been doing so well. And I think recently it's also, I don't know if it's like the juju or just Asia's in her zone, but it's been helping them kind of get back to what they've been looking like before. I think Asia's going to have to pop off and the rest of the team as well, because New York isn't the team where you just have one person doing really well and that's kind of enough. You need to have everybody because their defense is on lock. So Aces are going to have maybe a game of the year here.
Mm-hmm. I was also going to wear actually like a semi-wrinkled white tee, but I don't have one. So semi-wrinkled white tees only so that the Aces can, make their run through the playoffs. But a current Liberty season ticket holder recently posted a screenshot revealing that her season ticket prices are going from $4,800 to $8,910. Let's take a look. So some argue this move will price out true fans. Do they have a point, or is this just the cost of growth if it leads to more WNBA fans and possibly expansion? I have thoughts.
That is so much money. That is so much money. But I do think it is the cost. I think it is the cost of growth. Like their business, that is what you want to see year over year. I do think it always takes out the loyal fans because they were there from the beginning. I hope that she has an extra job for the double in. It's twice as much. I can't. Groceries. My brain. I have to stop.
Listen, I have a very indifferent take on this because I agree that in this economy, everything, it costs to wake up and start breathing in the morning. I spent 4.5 years working for the Warriors front office, so I learned from the best of the best when it comes to raising season ticket prices. And a lot that is just the cost of business. And if you want the team to continue to succeed and if you want the league to grow, you're going to have to raise prices. But personally, it couldn't be my wallet. So I hope this person is saving their money.
It is good that it's with New York as well. Like if it was with a team who's in last place, I'd be like, okay, like we're getting a little bit too ahead of ourselves. But New York, they not only have the team, it's the city and like Ellie. You got to pay for Ellie. So
that is why the prices have gone up. You're not paying for the cost of the team. You're paying for Ellie's wardrobe budget. So let's just get those facts straight. But let's pivot to the Chicago Sky. Despite Angel Reese's record-breaking season, they are on a 7-game losing streak. Logan, what's going on with them?
I have to say, they've been playing hard teams. I mean, they played the Aces, the Fever, the Lynx, I'm pretty sure. Like, that's pretty much 6 games against pretty much the top teams there. So I think it's a little bit of a slump, but also it's so hard to come out of the Olympic break and just like have to get right into it playing teams like that. I think they have time to turn things around and they can do it. They're just going to have to kind of recoup a bit.
Mm-hmm. Listen, it's hot in Chicago right now, you guys. It's just so hot, and it's summertime shy. They just, there's other things going on. They'll be back. They'll be back.
Well, the battle for the 8th and final playoff spot is getting close. Thanks to the Chicago Sky's 7-game losing streak, they are now tied with the Atlanta Dream. The Mystics are now just 1 game behind, while the Wings have pulled within 2. With just 2 weeks left in the regular season, who do you think will get that 8th spot, Logan?
I think Chicago's going to end up getting it. Based on how they've been playing and based on everybody else, I think Washington is kind of a long shot, but based on the beginning of the year and kind of how they've been trending and the like notoriety around them, I think Chicago is really going to pick it up and be able to clinch.
And then Katie can go to the game.
That's the other reason they've been losing. I haven't been home. So I need to make a trip. I'll be there. Don't worry, guys. But this also kind of warms my heart because Chicago's really good at losing just across the board in sports. So it feels like we're on par like this. And then they kind of turn it around. It seems like they're really embracing the vibe of everything else. So I think there's hope.
This also makes me wonder, what has their record been like since their new mascot? Because is it giving bad juju?
That is a good question.
Oh my God. Get her out for 1 game. See what happens.
No, literally, I'm so superstitious. So if I was on the team, I'd be like, guys, she gotta go.
Someone told me my anxiety attack last week was because of the blue moon. So maybe there's also, everyone was like, it's the moon. And so maybe this new moon will tell us something.
We've been in it for a little bit. I'm a Pisces actually, so I am not a Virgo, but Virgo season is one of my favorite seasons. Like it is my most thriving and successful season. Usually there's just something about end of August and September that does well for me. So maybe, the planets just needed to shift a little bit and maybe the new mascot needs to take a day off and we'll see what happens for the Sky.
I think that's good strategy. That's a good strategy. We need to tell them.
Expert analysis only here on Good Follow.
Okay, so before we hear a good follow of the week, I want to quickly move to the NWSL and talk about the KC Current. So heading into the Olympic break, they were undefeated alongside Orlando Pride until the Pride beat them. And since then, they've lost 2 more games, putting them on a 3-game losing streak. So they were undefeated and are now on a 3-game losing streak. 3 of their next 4 games are against the top 3 teams in the league. So Meg, I want to know, do you think they're in trouble?
No, I'm not concerned about these Kansas City losses, and here's why. So their first loss was against Orlando Pride, who are undefeated this season and are a 19 straight regular season game record, which is a new NWSL record. Their second loss was to Washington Spirit, who are second in the league, and the Spirit haven't lost a game since end of June, I believe, and they lost that to NC Courage, who NC Courage beat Kansas City last weekend 2-1. And NC have, I feel like, been slept on a little bit. They're 5th in the league, and they've been pretty good as of recently. They did lose to Seattle the other week, but they lost on an own goal late in the game, and they tied with Orlando back in June. So I'm not really concerned about Kansas City as of right now. I would be concerned if Tema Chawinga wasn't scoring goals, but she's scored 8 goals in the last 7 consecutive games. So I think they'll be okay. They play Utah this weekend, and Utah only has 4 wins on the season, so they should get the W. But I think they're going to be fine. What do you think about them, Logan?
sometimes it just takes a quick win to kind of like remember what it feels like, especially after, because you have to think they lost to Orlando, then they went on the whole break. So they had like a majority of Olympians. So it's not really out of character that they'd come back. They haven't been looking that good, but I think they'll be fine against Utah. I am keen to see what the next few games look like, but I guess we'll deal with that when we get there. I hope they can pull off wins and like get back to being in top 2.
Well, and I think I personally think that rain delay in North Carolina served NC well. It was tied up until the 80th minute, and then they took a long break for the rain delay. And then you also have to give credit to, in that game, Brianna Pinto for her late game winner. And so while Casey have been good and have been on this 3-game losing streak, I think we also need to give a lot of credit to the teams that beat them, because those have been really good teams. But yeah, aside from Utah, I am excited to see how the other 3 games pan out, because I think that will be most telling than this 3-game losing streak. Well, the foundation of this show is that communities get built one good follow at a time. Each one of us will highlight a person, page, or brand as the good follow of the week. It's my turn this week, and my good follow is artist and fashion designer Jocelyn Hu, aka Joss Hu on IG. Jocelyn creates one-of-one handmade pieces for some of the most stylish athletes in men's and women's sports, including Kelsey Plum and the whole Phoenix Mercury squad. Let's check out this video of a piece she made for U.S. swimmer Katie Grimes.
What's up? It's Jocelyn. I'm an artist, and I've teamed up with Powerade to create one-of-one items for swimmer Katie Grimes. As you know, every detail in my pieces are intentionally selected to tell a story. The collection references Katie's love for vintage cars, 70s rock, sneakers, and her hometown of Las Vegas. There's a jumpsuit that incorporates a mix of modern auto workwear with a classic 70s flair. It was an honor to work on this collaboration.
So, a really quick fun fact. I always wanted to be a fashion designer when I was growing up. Like, Project Runway is one of my favorite shows. And that's what I originally went to college for, was to study fashion. And then I quickly realized I can't draw. And so all the required art classes were just not going to work out for me. And then my life took me into sports. And as of lately, the intersection of sports and fashion has just been one of my absolute favorite things about what I create and what I do. And so artists like Jocelyn inspire me so much. Like, I actually have been crafting a lot more, doing a lot more DIY, and I definitely want to bring out my sewing machine. But the pieces that she's made are incredible. And she has one for Brittany Griner that Brittany was asked about one time in a post-game press conference, and her is very iconic and is very meaningful. A lot of her pieces have intention. So I just think her work is incredible, and she's been doing a lot of really cool stuff around men's and women's sports. So that is why Jocelyn is my good follow of the week. Everyone go follow her at Joss Hu.
And we want to hear from our fans. Who is your good follow?
Send your nominations to, say it with me, at Good Follow Show, and tell us why your good follow should be featured.
Good Follow is brought to you by DraftKings. We'll see you next week.